All right, Mental Gen, are we ready?
Commence.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to another episode of Geek Fanthology. I am your host, Neil Portrait. I'm joined this week by...
The one true Ben.
And...
Mike.
And, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. We're going to talk about The Karate Kid. In celebration of Cobra Kai having come out on Netflix recently, we thought we'd talk about that, or at least that's our excuse. If you haven't watched Cobra Kai, that might be another episode some other time. But we're going to talk about the movies: The Karate Kid Part 2, The Karate Kid Part 3, The Next Karate Kid, and The Karate Kid, which was really madly misnamed, but we'll get to that. But first, we got signal boosts, or do we? What do we got today, folks?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was going to say mine is the game on Steam called Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, which is an interesting little game. It's kind of like an MMO Mario Party in a sense. It's not exactly Mario Party because it's different, but it's like an MMO party game, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Takeshi's Castle, the video game. Or for those of you who have no idea what Takeshi's Castle was,
Is that the
most
NXT
extreme
show?
and most extreme elimination challenge.
Right, you are, Ken. Yeah, it's basically that. Just a lot of silly, physical challenges, obstacle courses, and whatnot. Although it's got a lot more contestants involved instead of a handful. I mean, there's still a decent amount, but I mean, this is like dozens. I think it's like
I think the first game starts with 60.
It's at least 60. Yeah, it's really high. It's like dozens of players.
And through you, Team Yellow, apparently.
So
it's apparently cool to bag on Team Yellow. I'm gonna buy that game with my next check, but I can't afford it yet. But I agree, it looks fantastic. All of my favorite YouTubers are playing it, and it looks great.
Now that I will say, most I'm not much of a
watch it's only $20.
Games. Yeah, I'm not much of a watch people play games guy. I don't really watch any streams or anything. When I was into Heroes of the Storm, I'd watch the occasional match or part of a match because I found that kind of interesting, pro level. But then that exploded, as we all know. But other than that, I don't really watch streamers play games. But I could totally see jumping in on a stream and just watching a little bit of this here and there because it's just such a ridiculous, silly spectacle. So yeah, one of the rare games it's actually, I think, is actually worth streaming and watching be streamed.
It's a lot of fun to just watch because you get to kind of sit back and examine the insanity.
A lot of physical comedy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all I got for this episode.
Ben?
Okay, so mine's, I mean, I've been playing Avengers, Marvel's Avengers, and that's all cool and stuff. But I really want to signal boost something a little bit more important. Buddy of mine, Josh Lindemann, known him for a few years. He was in a terrible accident on his bicycle. He's paralyzed on his left side, and he's got a long way to go to. Thank God he's still alive, but he has a GoFundMe, and I know we don't normally do stuff like that, but this is just an ordinary guy who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's broken parts of his back and his neck, and can't use. So
I saw this. I've got a bunch of mutuals with him.
Yeah, and so if you've got, I may put it on my page, or Neil, if you want to go ahead and set it up somehow on the page. His GoFundMe's out there. I mean, it's just him and his wife as far as, and he's basically got a long before he can even even think about walking again. So that's my bummer of a signal boost.
Well, I have something fun at least. My signal boost of obscure YouTubers who have far more of a following than we do. By the way, please check out our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, because it really would help us. Even if you don't want to listen to us on YouTube, just throw a subscribe our way so that we can make the algorithm think that we have people who care about us. I want to signal boost Pushing Up Roses. Pushing Up Roses is a video reviewer. She specifically talks a lot about episodes of Murder, She Wrote and Golden Girls.
Cool. I need to point that out to Ms. Randy.
I really enjoy. She's a comedic reviewer type person, and is a bunch of 80s grandparent TV. And if you go to our channel, please let people know that we sent you, because ha, guerrilla marketing.
Also, I know one on a here recently. I signal boosted Dingo Doodles.
Yeah.
Evidently, there is a new Dingo Doodles episode.
Okay.
Well, the last one ended on kind of a cliffhanger. So, so yeah. Now there's
Oh, that's what we got. Spoiler of the week, because because this will be the last of our 3 episodes that we did to catch up on our schedule. The spoiler of the week: what they're doing is secretly teaching them karate.
what?
I know, right? 'Cause that's a conceit that's, well, it's not really used in part 2 or part 3 of the original Karate Kid trilogy, but the first one and the next Karate Kid and the let's call it what it should be called, the Kung Fu Kid, because he learns kung fu, not karate.
Everything is kung fu. One of my favorites.
It's a really great speech. Like the remake, the 2010 remake. Why don't we start with that one, because I want to.
Oh darn!
Such a
It's
compelling argument.
yes.
Yeah.
It's my podcast. We're gonna do what I want. I like Jackie Chan does really well as a dramatic actor. There's very little comedic from Jackie. Like he's just kind of there, and he's good. Also, it's really interesting because unlike the first Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid, Dre is a massive fish out of water because they moved to China.
Right?
Yeah, I think in the original Karate Kid movie, it was like Jersey to California.
Yeah,
Just
it moves
a little
from
bit bigger of a
Reseda to
gap there.
California.
Right?
Just a bit.
Yeah.
At least there, everybody still speaks the same damn language.
Oh, I'm sure that
Right?
some people in California would argue that people from Jersey are speaking a different language and vice versa.
This is true. Yeah, and it's so he doesn't speak the language, and so there's almost nothing there that he can really interact with. Not even.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting in the sense that the first movie that was 1984, and this one was 2010. So in 84, I mean,
36
obviously, he didn't
years.
really have the language issues, but you didn't have like the internet or a lot of the modern contrivances
Right.
that you would
Like the
have in
cell phones.
2010. Yeah.
Right. It says like 20.
Yep. Another big
And
difference is Daniel in the original movie, he's 17 years old and friggin' Dre is 12. That's a pretty big difference here,
Mhm.
which that's one of the things that I found kind of like off-putting about the movie is like it felt like the kids were acting like they were like 14 to 18. Well, I guess the bully or whatever is 14, is a little bit older, but like I don't know, it just
Right.
felt like he's 12, but he's acting like he's 15 or 16 or something. It just felt like artificial to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know what is considered normal in China.
Yeah, there's that too. I mean, you're gonna have a lack of you're gonna have less of a cultural context when you're not growing up part of that. But
Yeah.
even aside that, leaving that aside,
Yeah.
it's still it could have been anywhere and it would still be weird.
Right. Right. Well, to us, yeah. Yeah. Again, not knowing what the cultural context. So someone in China, it might be perfectly normal, but I don't know.
Well, I'm talking
Um,
more like just a general like kind of I guess like childhood development type thing. Like I don't know, just
Mhm. Yeah.
felt like they were acting like they were more hormonal and like fighting over girls more and stuff than like a 12-year-old would be like to do.
You're right. Yeah. On Dre's side, yeah, that was. But yeah.
Also, healing someone with fire cupping is way cooler than healing somebody by clapping your hands and rubbing them together.
Yes, that's another gimmick to be discussed. The convenient near instantaneous healing.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that Mr. Miyagi uses his karate healing magic. I mean,
It's just that's by the way, just as an aside here, that's one of the most like just arbitrarily accepted like plot devices I've ever seen in my life to this day. It's just like, oh, I just clap my hands together and bada bing, bada boom,
and
you're good
breathe
to
a
go.
little bit, and
Right.
Just a few little movements here, some breathing. It's like, all right, get out there.
All right.
Mhm.
So, as the massage therapist, it's not the clapping of the hands together; it's what he does right after. because what he does is he rubs his hands together very quickly, which will hands
Yeah, but
and
that's still not going to fix a broken knee.
no, it's not going to fix a broken knee, but it will help with the soft tissue around it.
Well, the
I'm
thing
just
is
like,
that you can polish that turd as much as you want, Ben, but it's still ridiculous.
he's still definitely using magical karate healing powers. I'm
Right.
sorry.
AKA Reiki.
I mean, you can dig in, you can dig in there and pick away at like, well, but if you look at this, then this is tangentially related to this technique that's actually used. It's like, yeah, but it's not like you don't instantly have like significant relief. Like it does. It's just there's no way around it. It's still magical healing karate powers the way it's portrayed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and what I'm trying to avoid is getting into the yes, he's the man teaching.
Well,
the
it's
way,
just it's just.
So,
I mean, well,
I mean,
I think it's just
that was the trope of the day. Like,
yeah,
it is a product of its time.
yeah, it is. And it's something that I kind of forgive it because it's going, yeah, it is the product of the time. And like Bruce Lee, kind of bringing martial arts into the West, this kind of revived.
Well, there's no doubt that the original Karate Kid movie just made karate super popular in the U.S.
Exactly.
There's
Oh yeah,
a real chain reaction there.
absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, I just I think for I don't disagree that it was it was a product of its time, and it may be a little cheesy in some of the portrayals, but
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people clutch the pearls a little too much about that stuff. I feel
mean,
like there's a lot more positive that I mean, for example, like he's not just a cartoon. He's not portrayed as some cartoon character. Like he's actually like a really well developed character who's interesting. Is actually a big part of the movie, and a big part of one of the big plot points of the movie is the friendship and bond that he and Daniel develop. And they go into all this stuff about like it turns out he's a war hero and like the internment camps and all this serious shit. So like I think on the whole, like it's a very positive portrayal of Asian American.
Right, which is why I try not deep into the magic part. It is still something it kind of plays to that. But yeah, I mean Miyagi's character actually steals the show. I mean seriously, Ralph Macchio was supposed to be the star, and
it really does.
Pat Morita just
Morita was just a really fantastic actor.
Yeah,
what I learned
the
is
whole thing.
I didn't know that he was like known for comedic stuff before that because I didn't really know the actor outside
He
of
was
the
in Happy Days.
context. Yeah, that's so
he was
weird.
the first Al in Happy
I never really watched that show.
Arnold, but yeah.
Arnold. Sorry, yeah, and because I was recently watching an episode of Happy Days. Yeah, he shows back up for for the graduation. I was like, oh my god.
Yep.
Pat Morita.
Is there anything we wanted to else that we want to touch on the 2010 remake before we pivot to the original? We're already kind of getting there.
Yeah, no. Go ahead, Neil.
Jaden Smith actually apparently Jackie Chan said so Jackie did most of the stunt and fight coordination for the movie, like you do when you're Jackie Chan. And he said that Jaden Smith was actually a lot of fun to train and would really have liked to just sort of take him in as a disciple of Kung Fu, but apparently that didn't happen.
Right. So the things I liked about the 2010 version, first of all, was it was more about some of the I think the less about when to use kung fu were a little more I don't know. It's like I said, my favorite thing was there about that whole movie. It's in everything you do, and it's also the part where where he actually revealed you've been secretly learning kung fu the entire time, because it's in everything that you do, which I like that was a philosophy. And then they also borrowed things from the next karate with the trip to the monastery, and of course your focus needs more focus. Which another one of my favorite lines from the movie. But there's also the thing about this one is that Dre and what was the Jackie Chan's character's name? Mr. Hong.
Han.
Yeah, and Mr. Han is that they end up helping each other. Which we didn't see in the first one. I don't even think we saw in the second or third one, really.
Yeah, we saw it a bit more in the Karate Kid Part 2. But Mr. Miyagi was not particularly unlike Mr. Han. Mr. Miyagi was not particularly broken.
Right.
I mean, he got sad and got drunk on the anniversary of his wife's death, which okay, yeah, that makes sense. But aside from that, like there wasn't nearly so much. Like Jackie Chan really seems like a angry old man for most of the thing, and unlike Mr. Miyagi, who is pretty nice the whole time.
Right, and who's always zen, whereas Han, yeah, all you kids get off my lawn,
Yeah, he's an
yeah,
angry old man.
exactly, and
Well, if you'd had that many bones broken, oh wait a minute, that's Jackie Chan.
that's Jackie Chan. Yeah, well, yeah, life imitating art, art imitating
If
life.
you ever want a
There
good
you go.
laugh, just like, look at the little like X-ray skeletal chart type thing of all the various things that have all the injuries he has sustained over his career with all the ridiculous stunts and stuff. It's
As
pretty
I
insane.
understand it, he has broken literally every single bone in his body at least once.
At least once, yeah.
Yep.
He's in sustained injuries, and in pretty much every film he's done. So I mean, and Jackie Chan started with Bruce Lee. He was in Enter the Dragon.
Yep, he got punched too hard.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, I like the modern take on the Kung Fu Kid, which I
hmm
think should have been more of a series. Because there's more to it that could have been done.
Well, here's my thing. If you're gonna do this thing or this story where it's like, okay, we completely uproot and move to China, I'm like, I don't think you can really capture that in a 2-hour movie. Like, I
No.
feel like that really needs a limited series at least to really like,
Yeah,
pace things out and develop things up enough. Like, it just seems kind
exactly.
of abrupt with all the stuff they have to cover in such a relatively short runtime.
This is true, and I agree better on what they covered at time.
Yeah, I mean it had a decent runtime, 2 hours 20 minutes.
Yeah,
But there was not enough time spent at the beginning building how shit it is to be
yeah,
Dre Parker.
it's true, and I got.
Yeah, they may. I mean, 2 hours 20 minutes. That's a decent length movie. So it's not so much that they not my issue is not so much that they rushed it as a movie, but just that the story would be better as a series. I mean, those are all meta
Oh
those
yeah,
are all
absolutely,
real world concerns and stuff. It's like
exactly.
they wanted to have a star vehicle movie for Jaden Smith and blah 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 blah, and it's going to be a movie. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying
Well, I
if you
mean,
had a blank check and
his dad
unlimited time.
produced it, so.
Right, obviously.
So yeah, I think we kind of covered the ground on this one. But
Mhm.
the secret kung fu. So I mean, since we have kind of the gimmick, the secret kung fu in this one was the jacket.
Put on your jacket, take off your jacket, drop your jacket, hang up your jacket.
Yeah. So yeah, and he had to teach him not to make the face when he did the strike, which was kind of funny. But
Oh, the whole like explain a movie badly thing where you give a sentence summing up the plot that makes
uh
it sound as ridiculous as possible. I would be like, Jackie Chan teaches a young boy to jacket properly.
right. Oh, I like it. I like it.
And changes his life in the process.
Right? Yeah. Jackie Chan teaches karate by teaching kung fu.
Yep.
Jacket Chan.
It should be pointed out that
I love it.
kung fu is very different from karate.
Karate, yeah. So
And I do believe it roughly translates to hard work, the actual words, right?
Kung fu?
Yeah, doesn't the meaning of that, isn't it similar? Need to fact check me,
Um,
but I thought it was something like that.
let's check.
because it depends on your
Kung fu.
to the internet. Let's see.
I'm already there. Give me just a second.
Could be one of those things where like, words develop and change over time, language in general, and like the
Mhm.
origin phrase or word might be more close to what I'm thinking than
Right.
the end result. But
Um,
kind of like how the word Jeep kind of evolved from GP for general purpose vehicle in the army.
hmm
so in its original meaning, the literal okay, so Zhongguo Wushu is my terrible pronunciation of what it is Chinese martial art. so
hmm
so
and one of the from what I was able to find here that one of the that like sort of the initial roots of Gong Fu, which I'm also pronouncing horribly, is hard / skillful work and time spent smashed together.
Ah, there you go.
So that was I believe that is what
So that's what I'm referring to. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the gist. I mean, that kind of sounds like basically what it's like
hmm
saying practice makes perfect, essentially.
hmm So, let us reverse gears entirely and go to the first Karate Kid movie.
From the end to
The
the beginning.
beginning, yes.
So-
Ralph Macchio was playing a 17-year-old at 23, which is not horrible. But
Yeah, I think he pulled it off.
he was pushing 30 by the time he was playing an 18-year-old in The Karate Kid Part 3, though.
Well, that's funny. Well, you know, it is funny though when we're talking about ages versus, you know, ages portrayed on screen and everything. I actually saw Ralph Macchio do a one of those Zoom-esque interviews on Conan O'Brien on his
Mhm.
YouTube channel the other day, and like he still looks super young for his age. The dude is 58 years old and he looks like he's 40.
Yeah, this is true. He does he is he's one of those people that that is aging very gracefully.
Like
so-
Mario Lopez or Patrick Stewart.
Right. Exactly.
Or Keanu Reeves or
Yeah.
Paul Rudd. Although they're not really aging gracefully so much as they're not aging.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know how Patrick Stewart makes himself look old, don't you? Like in
How?
Picard, stubble.
Oh yeah. He doesn't shave as well.
He doesn't shave as well, and it makes him look older. Whereas Keanu Reeves grows a beard, and suddenly he's fucking immortal.
Yeah.
But if you look at him in Bill and Ted 3, he does look middle aged.
Yep.
Now, Paul Rudd,
They might be
Paul
playing
Rudd,
it up. Who knows?
yeah, there's a painting of him somewhere. I know that doesn't look so good. There's probably a group portrait of those three that doesn't.
There's a fantastic yes, I get what you're talking about. So Mike, do you get the reference?
Dorian Gray.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
For those who don't get it, he is referring to the portrait of Dorian Gray. There's a Tumblr thread out there that I can't remember where it discusses the various immortals of Hollywood.
Yeah, every so often you'll see like some old painting or photograph from hundreds of
Yeah.
years ago that look like contemporary actors.
Yeah.
Keanu gets that treatment sometimes. So actually, as a quick aside, because we're talking about the Karate Kid, and it brings to mind a bunch of other martial arts films. I think we should at some point do an episode on martial arts films. On their influence.
I'd be down
pop
for that.
culture.
That is, I did a quick Google search and it found from the Grapevine 8 celebrities who just might be immortal, and it's a bunch of old pictures and/or paintings of people that are dead lookalikes. Like here's a Renaissance painting of, I'm pretty sure it's actually Peter Dinklage. I'll throw this up on the Discord for anybody who wants to see it, so that we can advertise the Discord a little bit. And of course, this leads to we'll finish the digression here shortly, but this leads to the oldest immortal of all of the Hollywood immortals is Tommy Wiseau, who
how many centuries old is he?
people are pretty sure that he is one of the first humans and also a vampire, because he inexplicably has absolute buckets of money, has an accent that you can't place other than somewhere in Europe. And
yeah, that does sound very sketchy.
Vaguely European.
Yes. And
okay, has anyone interviewed him during the day? This is important.
I'm not sure. He doesn't really do very much in terms of public appearance.
Ah, well, that's another.
And he apparently despises the French language entirely.
That's just a complete non sequitur, but all right.
Well, it's a thing. But and also he's doughy faced. Like you can tell he's old, but like he's somewhere between 30 and 120,000. Like you can't really place his age other than not young anymore.
Other than dirt, older than.
Yes. Anyhow, the Karate Kid tells the story of young Daniel LaRusso, who is really kind of a dick at the beginning of the movie.
Doesn't change much at the end.
He's a cocky, pompous Jersey person who just lost everybody who listens to us from New Jersey.
That's what, one person?
Well, they play up the the whiny kid angle because teenagers gonna be whiny when they're especially when it's like he the big move, and he's like I don't remember the specifics, but didn't like his dad died or divorced his mom or something to do with some kind of dad issue.
I don't think it's ever explicitly stated, other than his mom moves to to Reseda from Newark for a job of some sort, and then has difficulty with the job, and moms having difficulty with their jobs after having uprooted their family for said job is also somewhat consistent in both the original and the remake.
It's a
And
tropey trope.
yeah, and he wants to learn karate because he was learning some from books, and
Yeah.
you don't never learn a martial art from books, by the way.
Or movies, yeah. It's like all karate or no karate. Middle of road, squish like grape.
Yep. Should also be pointed out that Pat Morita does not have an accent at all. Like, he had to affect that.
Yeah, he actually he grew a
He was
beard and
born
played it up.
in California.
Yeah, he grew a beard and played up the accent to made an accent basically
Mhm.
to get the role.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because Miyagi was Okan.
Yep. His dad was a Japanese immigrant. And so was his mom, but he was, I mean, he was born in California in 1932. So anytime it's really interesting to hear him speak, to hear any interview with him where he's just, talking, and you expect Mr. Miyagi to sound like Mr. Miyagi, but no, he just sounds like a guy, like an American from California. They're like, because his film performance is so iconic, it's jarring when you see him.
Right.
It's like seeing an example for more modern people. It's like seeing the new Superman, Henry Cavill, and have him talk without putting on his American accent because he's British.
Right.
But you wouldn't know it when he's acting.
It kind of reminds me of when I first saw Kelsey Grammer like doing interviews and shit after Frasier, and like like being making a crass joke or something in a completely
Right.
different voice, and I'm just like, oh,
Yep.
okay, like you're not Dr. Frasier Crane. Like I knew this in my head, I knew this on paper, but it's hard for me, my brain to like connect that. Yeah.
It's almost like, and then you see Sylvester Stallone give an interview, and he sounds exactly the same.
Well, that's because Rocky was,
Well, that, and also like Sylvester Stallone, like I wouldn't say he
Not the
can't
best at
act,
enunciating.
but I wouldn't say that he can't act, but he doesn't do voices. He
Right.
always sounds like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, that is definitely true. He does not do voices.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So we got Mr. Miyagi. So we got Daniel falls in love with some girl, and goes to a beach party, and then the bad guys show up, and Daniel tries to, honestly, like, Daniel actually doesn't start the initial fight. He does escalate things pretty quickly, but he doesn't start the fight. But after that, the Cobra Kai students are just continual assholes to him until he gets saved by Mr. Miyagi. Hooray!
That's by the way, just as an aside, this franchise celebrates adults beating up children a lot.
Well,
Just saying.
I wouldn't say beating up children. I mean, yes, Mr. Miyagi does in fact beat the ever-loving shit out of all of those kids, including, like, I think throwing one of them through a metal sign that breaks. At the Halloween party, stepping in to defend thing.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen this in a while, I implore you to watch the movie again and pay close attention to just how hard of a beatdown he gives to children. It's kind of disturbing.
But at the same time, he's protecting someone else. Like, he's definitely he's defending yourself or others is a proper application of force. He does, once again, he doesn't start the fight.
Right.
He just finishes it.
And
God, does he finish it?
hard. Yeah. Well, and we see something similar, I think, with Miyagi in 3, with Miyagi confronting adults, and like,
Yes. That was definitely one of the things that I really did greatly appreciate, which was in 3, Miyagi just coming up and beating up and taking out the other two, Silver and Kreese.
yeah.
He's like, yes, I really am just way better than both of you.
And that's, as the movie goes on, the original. It reveals a big part of why the bullies are such mustache twirling villains is because they're basically indoctrinated to be assholes 24/7 by their sensei Kreese.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the thing is and again Miyagi, sums it up very handily. It's not karate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, another one of my other favorite lines, telling him about where he learned karate. Like, oh, what belt do you have? What kind of belt do you have? He says, Canvas, J.C. Penney,
You
398.
like it?
Yeah. It's like, I mean, in Okinawa, belt mean no rope, need to hold up pants. So, which I like because it completely, steps away from the whole. There are,
Mhm.
it's just,
Well, and it in the second part, it's like, you ever been in a fight before? Or no, sorry, no, it's in the first part. Mr. Miyagi, thought you said you'd been in plenty of fights before. Oh yeah, for my life, not for points.
right, not for points.
Yeah, well, another thing too is that ironically, the popularity of karate in the U.S., which of course, obviously, your mileage may vary when it comes to people teaching martial arts and businesses related to them and whatnot. But a lot of it is just this thing where it's like it's commercialized and it's
Mhm.
about like profit or retaining students and so on and so forth. So you have all the belt systems and stuff where it's just like, oh yeah, pay
Mhm.
this much, like take these many classes, and then unless you really fuck it up, hey, here's your new shiny belt that's of this
Mhm.
arbitrary color, and then it's this treadmill for people to keep cashing in on
Well,
teaching
Japan,
martial art.
even original Japanese karate, did have the Dan and belt color systemology. That's not
Oh, the
unique
core
to
of it is
America.
a thing, yes,
Yeah.
but you're gonna find you're gonna find it work like 50 different ways depending
Hmm.
on like where it is and who's teaching it and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes for almost all martial arts, by the way.
Yeah, and again, that's something we probably ought to go into more. We'll do a Martian pop culture thing, on that. But
So where were we?
well, we were going through Karate Kid 1, and the thing about
Yep.
that was that it ended up being, the gimmick wins the day, the crane.
Yep.
Uh,
The crane kick, which got super popular.
mhm,
And one thing that kind of irritates me is that, yes, it's the crane kick, but everyone calls the stance the crane stance. It's not.
mhm.
That actually is from Kung Fu, and it's the dragon stance.
Yeah,
Sorry, that's my own little personal.
pet
It's not
peeve.
the crane stance. It's dragon stance. It's the crane kick.
Right. Well,
And
the
apparently, if do right, no can defense, even though it's really kind of a shitty move.
Yeah,
well,
Um,
yeah. I mean, one would think it's pretty telegraphed, but
yeah.
also
movie's gonna movie.
right. Plot's gonna plot. So Brady to Karate Kid.
Well, it should be
I would.
pointed out that there's one other thing that's very worth bringing up, and that is there's another bit that's entered the zeitgeist from this movie, and that is sweep the leg.
Actually, that's from 2 or 3.
Nope, it's from one.
No, it's in the first one.
First one?
Yeah. Kreese calls Johnny over to him because he's got a nosebleed, and while he's looking at him, he says, "Sweep the leg," and that's when Johnny realizes that Kreese is a monster.
Okay, yeah.
So he sweeps the leg, and poor Johnny, poor Daniel can't use his leg anymore,
Has to get
which
kicked.
is why he ends up doing the crane kick.
Right.
Because he doesn't even just sweep the leg; he grabs his leg and elbows his knee, which is really just uh,
Low. I mean, it's a deliberate injury. It's not something for a tournament.
yeah. It's a great move if your goal is to incapacitate an opponent so that he can't walk and chase you anymore.
Yeah.
Another thing I'll point out here, because I've actually participated in martial arts tournaments before, they play very fast and loose with how these fucking tournaments work. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
oh, we're just gonna kind of do a bunch of things and we'll arbitrarily make calls. And it's like, and I'm like sitting here watching the movie, being like, okay, what are the fucking rules of this thing anyway? Like,
Well,
can you hit to the face or not? Because
Right.
people are hitting, punching each other's heads, kicking each other's heads all the time, and it's like,
Mhm.
most like if you have a tournament where children are And I mean, granted, these are teenagers, but they're still, they're still minors.
Right.
And of course, there's age brackets and stuff, right? So you have big
Mhm.
tournaments like this, you're going to have different like age brackets and whatnot. But like, generally speaking, you are not going to allow hits to the head in a tournament like this.
Yeah.
But they have like there's a point where like Daniel like does a thing where he rolls back and like hits him with the back fist to the back of the head, and then and this, by the way, a little teaser for Cobra Kai here, but and of course, there's all the fan theory stuff where it's like, oh well, no, Johnny's the real protagonist of the movie and all this kind of silliness, but it's like his famous or infamous crane kick, it's a kick straight to his fucking face.
Right.
Like that's clearly illegal. Like you
Yeah.
can't score a point on that. But that is
Right.
the most celebrated moment of the entire movie.
Yeah.
And then he hands him the trophy and it's like, you earned my respect with that illegal kick to the face. It
I mean,
doesn't make any sense to me.
It should also be pointed out that like Daniel's leg gets injured because because in the semifinals the guy the other Cobra Kai guy like does a jump kick down onto the knee,
Right.
and that immediately disqualifies him.
Right.
And yet Johnny delivers an elbow to the same knee
Right. And then
and is given a warning.
Right. Yeah. It's so arbitrary.
Right. Leg disqualified, but use the arm. Haha.
Loophole.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, which is worse because it was specifically targeting an already injured part. Like,
Yes.
It wasn't just like, oh, hey, like you shouldn't, like that was a low blow, man. It was like, oh, you specifically saw an injury and went after it.
Yeah.
Like that's really fucked up.
So Karate Kid Part 2, which I honestly think is better than the first one.
Heresy.
There's a lot. Oh no, there's a lot to that. It's a different movie.
Yeah.
On a lot of levels because there's a lot of Okinawan culture that we see, a lot which also reflects, I think, a lot of Japanese culture.
Mhm.
But it is we see a lot more about Miyagi's past.
Mhm.
And I like the romantic side to that one. I really like the romantic side to that one just because I have a weakness for some of the tea ceremony.
Mhm.
The beauty of the tea ceremony is in its and it's just there is a significance to that in Okinawan and Japanese culture that we don't see really reflected in our zeitgeist culture. A lot of people can adopt it, but we don't see it as a normal thing.
Yeah. There's something to be admired in a lot of Asian cultures, but especially in Japanese or heavily Japanese influenced cultures like the Okinawan culture,
Mhm.
where there is like the sorry, my brain just stopped.
Culture.
Yes, where there is an appreciation and like there is a cultural movement towards the absolute perfection of the simplest thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're getting at. The tea ceremony, you're right, it is very simple,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time it's very, very, very precise.
Oh yeah, extremely. And I had done some research on that in the 90s, and even in the 80s, and then I researched it again recently for one of my books, and it was for actually prom night. And yeah, it's the simplicity, the precision,
Mm-hmm.
but there is so much that about the courtesy and the respect for for the person doing the ceremony, taking part in it. It's just so much to that because it's a tradition that goes back.
Yeah. Also, it should be pointed out that yes, Okinawa is part of Japan. However, they have they were a late addition to the Japanese Empire.
Mm-hmm.
So while the culture runs parallel, it's not exactly the same. So like if everyone's yelling Okinawa is part of Japan, it is now and was for a large portion of history, but during sort of its foundational period, it was not necessarily.
Yeah, and yeah, so I mean, there's a rich separate tradition in culture.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like how there's a rich separate tradition in Hokkaido versus Kyushu.
I will, as the person who's been to Japan and knows that, I will definitely take your word on that.
Other islands.
So yeah,
Kyushu, if I will, let me make sure I'm not getting this wrong. Hokkaido's the northern island, and Kyushu is, if I recall correctly, the no, it's not. It's not what I'm thinking of. Sorry, Honshu's the one I'm thinking of, which is the big island. But Hokkaido is the northern island, which it has it has its own. It also has its own separate like it it's kind of like saying, yeah, the South is American, but it's way different. But like Louisiana is real different from Wisconsin.
Very true. Or Texas.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm not a big fan of lumping the entire South together as some sort of homogenous thing.
Well,
but
yeah,
I
but
think a better
that's
example
why
for
I
me
went
would
to
be,
Louisiana specifically.
I would
But
say Texas is a good example because that was the Republic of Texas, and so you look at the history there and how it developed and became a state and everything.
actually, the reason I picked Louisiana is because because of its heavy French influences.
Right. Whereas Mississippi has a very different one, and you get into Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, you have
And
very
when you're comparing it to Wisconsin,
Wisconsin.
which primarily has a bunch of cultural influences from Dutch immigrants,
Right.
it's a very while they are both American, they are very very different in scope and flavor.
Right, and cultural, yeah, and
Yeah,
cultural. But we're kind of wandering far
yeah, we're
afield.
really wandering far afield. So they go to Okinawa.
We started in Okinawa and end up into the American South.
Oh, we are kind of glossing past the great opening bit though, where
Oh,
after the tournament,
yeah.
Miyagi throws down with Kreese.
Well, no,
Yeah.
he doesn't. That's the thing. He doesn't throw down. He just dodges.
Yeah, he dodges and then basically immobilizes him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he clowns him.
Yeah,
He really does.
Kreese attempts to punch twice. Yeah, and breaks windows with his fists and bleeds badly because newsflash, kids, when you go through actual glass,
Right.
you get cut to hell.
Yep.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and it's, I mean,
but then he knocks then he like knocks him over and it's like, I could kill you right here with a chop to the neck, and he just tweaks his nose and walks away. Ha 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 ha.
right.
Boop.
Yep.
So
Daniel gets dumped by his girlfriend off screen because they couldn't get the actress to come back, and
right.
Natalie Portman and Thor syndrome.
Right. Now she's coming back from Love and Thunder. It's like, what the, but yeah, and yeah, so he gets dumped, and also his mom. I mean, it's like his whole world is getting completely
yeah, his mom's going to Fresno for the summer because there's a business opportunity.
right.
And Miyagi's building a guest house for Daniel.
Right.
Just building a house in his backyard because Miyagi's badass like that.
Exactly.
It's like, sorry, honey, I gotta go. There's a plot device that needs my attention. Bye.
Yeah.
Right.
And but then Miyagi's dad is sick, so he has to run off to Okinawa to see his dad die.
Right.
And Daniel sells a savings bond to come with him or something. I can't remember. Like he spends his
I think
college
it's like
fund,
a college fund or something. Yeah.
which they win back by gambling because
Another great lesson of the franchise.
yes,
Beat up little kids and gamble. It'll always turn out well.
gamble on breaking ice blocks with your fists.
Put yourself in physical jeopardy while you're gambling.
Yeah. And here we are in Okinawa. We also find out that Daniel definitely is recognized by Miyagi as a surrogate son, because it's mentioned that that Miyagi style karate is only passed from father to son. And admittedly, that's been broken a couple times because Sato was taught Miyagi style karate by Mr. Miyagi's father, because Mr. Miyagi he begged his father to let that happen.
Right.
Mhm.
And yeah, and that's that whole thing has a really great resolution. I loved the resolution to that whole thing between Miyagi and Sato.
Well, it's kind of it's kind of refreshing, I guess, in a contrast of Kreese just being a bullheaded dick till the very last second, and actually seeing someone actually like change and grow a bit as a result of events, as opposed to Kreese just being like this irredeemable dick.
Yeah.
Right.
I learned karate to kill. What's really interesting though, like, is actually Kreese and Miyagi have a similar, actually follow kind of parallel paths. Just one follows it well and one follows it bad because they're both Vietnam vets.
Mhm.
Just
Are they Vietnam or because I thought
Vietnam.
Well, he was a World War II vet. I don't know
I
if
thought it
you.
was Vietnam.
No,
No,
it was World War
No,
II.
Kreese is Vietnam. I'm sorry.
yeah, Kreese is Vietnam.
Yeah, Kreese was Vietnam.
Yeah, and Miyagi's WW too.
Yeah.
But like they're both war veterans, but they come out of things differently.
Yeah. Well, and they come out of very different wars too. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Vietnam and World War II, very very different wars. But Miyagi was also Miyagi camps before.
Yes.
So
He did the thing that you could do to get out of the internment camps, which was enlist.
but yeah, and the thing is I like that me play because honor wasn't just a term. It wasn't a thing. Miyagi left to avoid fighting Sato's friend, practically his brother.
Yeah. He considered him his brother. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the end, he had the opportunity to just, it's like, hey, if I do nothing, he dies, or and instead, he saves him, helps him to the shelter during, and then there's the thing with his,
You
Cho-
mean
Chosen.
the bad guy from the second movie?
yes,
Yeah.
Daniel's nemesis from the movie. 'Cause
Yes.
they both had their own battles.
Yep.
Because Miyagi in the village and Yuki, that he was but also I want to go to
Yukie. But
Yuki. Let me see here. I'm trying to. It's been a while.
yep. Chosen Toguchi
But I also love the way Miyagi ended that fight with Kreese.
with the nose honk.
Yeah,
Yep.
which basically is the setup for the end. We'll get to
Yep.
that. But
And we also learn the two most important rules in Miyagi style karate.
yeah,
Karate rule number 1: karate is for defense only. Rule number 2: first learn rule number 1.
master rule number one.
Mhm.
So
Ironically, it's like Fight Club.
right.
A little
And
bit.
so and I like that because we also have the one who Dick and chosen.
Yep. He's the
Uh,
one he's the one who doesn't who like who uses honor as a quote he uses quote honor unquote as sort of a reason to be antagonistic, even though
Right.
he's like you impugned my honor because you revealed that I was cheating people with loaded weights.
right.
Well, yeah,
um
it's one of those things where it's like, it's a cudgel to use. Like he's
Right.
yeah.
weaponizing the concept of honor, which is, obviously the exact opposite of what honor is supposed to
Yeah,
be.
like Sato, while he had allowed himself to become bitter,
Hmm.
did actually have a legitimate grievance against Miyagi.
Yeah.
Whereas Chosen was just an asshole.
Exactly. And see, Chosen used it like you said, like a weapon, whereas Sato, because and we see that during the storm,
Hmm.
when Daniel's trying to be a good guy, and then gets it over his head. He tells Chosen, who was supposed to be the better person, go help him. Chosen, refuses, so Sato goes out and helps.
Hmm.
This is an old man, again, versus a kid in his prime,
Hmm.
and he's doing something that the other one is, and that's I think that kind of
Yeah,
is
and
illustrates
then
the real
yeah,
difference.
and keep in mind this is also right after. Was this right after or right before he
No,
had a damn house fall on him?
his dojo fell on him. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was after that. That was when Miyagi, karate chopped the
Yeah,
big
the beam in
board.
half.
Yeah, that they had been hitting for years to harden their hands.
Hmm.
Another contrast here is, he disowns his nephew for
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
legitimate reason, as
I
opposed
thought you
to
were dead. To you, I am now.
Yes.
increase, like Kreese gets upset at his students for not doing bullshit, for
Yeah.
not being an asshole. Like that's another good contrast there. It's like, okay, he's actually upset for a legitimate reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that they they portrayed that balance in you have you have the Okinawan elder who is and then you have the younger, you have both sides to that, as
Yeah.
opposed to all of them are like this, all of them are this, it just
Yeah, I will say that is one thing I compliment part two on, is that generally speaking, the characters are more nuanced,
right
less like like
caricature.
old school cowboy. Like
Yeah.
the good guy has a white hat on, and the bad guy has a black hat on, and they shoot at each
Mhm.
other.
Right. Yeah. There's no mustache to wear. So yeah, and it works out really, it works out really well that way. And then of course when Chosen shows up and takes the
At the
girl.
Avon Festival, yep. With a
Yeah,
knife, no less.
yeah. Of course, he had a good entrance. He did,
Yep. And he's
but
using a butterfly knife, and everybody knows that those are cool.
right.
Honestly, they kind of are, but
Well, they're very versatile. Corners of cutting about those ones.
or you can show off interesting opening and closing techniques to distract your enemies.
No, there's it's good for
It's
like
called a balisong, and I actually do quite like them.
yeah.
But yeah, and then you bring it full circle with honk the nose.
Right, exactly. Live or die, man. And
Die wrong honk, and then everybody look on proudly and fade to black.
right.
Both of the all three of the original Karate Kid movies have very abrupt endings. Daniel wins the fight,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like 3 minutes of celebration, and then freeze frame, fade to black, roll credits.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't really touched on yet is the great cheesy '80s music.
Oh
As Barry
yeah, you're
sang,
the best around.
"You're the best around."
Yeah. So,
Oh, another thing too is that Cruel Summer song by Bananarama, which is just so fun to say, Bananarama.
yeah.
That, interestingly enough, that was left off the soundtrack, and that's one of the most iconic tracks in that movie.
Right. Well, and then of course you've got Chicago's. All was it did it all for love or whatever? Hang on. Glory of Love. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Which.
the one.
Yeah, that was the year I graduated. So yeah, that was like an awesome thing.
Oh yeah, Joe Esposito, you're the best around.
Yeah.
And then they made a third one.
That
Yeah.
everyone hated.
Yeah.
The sequel no one asked for, except for
The first sequel no one asked for.
the Karate Kid Part 2. I do stand by. I really do think it's better than the first one. I think it's more interesting.
The
I
second
think
one?
it's a solid movie.
Yeah.
I'd have to rewatch it to really, because it's been so long.
But 3 is like okay.
Let's
It's like they're rehashing.
Let's just
rehashes of that
rehash
first
the
one.
first movie almost entirely.
right. So
Well, the other thing about it too is that, like, there's supposedly a significant period of time is passing here between the first movie and the third movie, and there are a lot of things that transpire. But then they just portrayed Daniel as this dumbass who hasn't learned a damn thing. So it's like
Actually,
the first
that's the thing. Almost
movie.
no time is supposed to have passed from the first movie
Oh, really?
to the third movie. It's been 1 year.
Ah, well, okay, maybe not a long period of time, but an eventful year, let's say, right? Where all these things, he did all this stuff. I mean, hell,
Yeah.
all that significant stuff we're talking about in Okinawa, that was like a summer or something, right?
yeah.
Yep.
It's a very
Daniel
condensed
once
period
again uses his college fund to not go to college and help
One
Mr.
of the
Miyagi
worst
open
named
up a
puns ever.
bonsai shop instead, which
Right.
I don't know. I feel like that's I mean, don't get me wrong, bonsai's great, but I don't feel like that's even in
Risky investment to
LA,
say the
that
least.
seems like it's not particularly a very good
Right.
I don't feel like that's a particularly good
Investment.
investment. That's the right word. It's not a growth industry.
Right.
Well, it is. It just grows very slowly.
Yes. Also, like Daniel's apartment got demolished while they were gone because, of course, it did. And his
Right.
mom's nowhere to be found. She's in New Jersey taking care of Uncle Louie.
Right. Yeah.
That's
again,
another one of the buried leads here, is like, his mom is kind of like never around. Can anyone address that? Doesn't seem like a great mom.
And yeah, let's go to another tournament. Except don't. But now you're being bullied into it. Okay, so I guess we'll do it.
Right.
and then use the new gimmick and win the fight.
Right. Yay.
But that's another like it's another weird like mixed messaging thing there where it's like, okay, well I'm not gonna do this because it's not right for me to do this. Oh, but if I just get pressure enough, then I'll just do it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, also, and I think at the end it was even some it was this over the top thing where it's like they're on some cliff or something and they're like grabbing the rope
Yeah,
back. And it's like,
they're
oh,
doing
we're gonna
they're
let you
performing a
die.
kata on the top of a. Oh, you mean when they're
So
when
over the
they're
top.
yeah when they're rappelling down the cliff to recover the bonsai tree that was planted next to the waterfall, which is a cool like concept, but like okay.
It's just everything is so over the top. It's like, oh, if you
Right.
don't do this, if you don't enter this karate tournament, you're going to die.
Yeah, we're gonna
let you
we're gonna
die.
fucking kill you
Right.
because
That's
we
how much
want
we care about a
revenge.
fucking tournament. Is that
Yeah,
we're going
because
to
we want
murder
revenge
people.
on you for beating us at karate.
Yeah,
Right.
just like I don't care how much of a dick someone is. That's just not believable.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the thing is it tries to pull a a kung fu trope. My dojo versus your dojo. Ours is better. And this is why I wish we could. Yeah. Why I wish we did these. On video because then I would do my bad lip syncing. Because that's that's the thing I love about the old kung fu movies back in the day when that was what USA was all about.
The
USA,
ridiculous dubbing,
yeah, the ridiculous dubbing.
Gojira style.
Yeah, and it was, but there were such fun movies. I loved watching them, but
Mhm.
you just kind of start to get used to it. But then it's fun to make fun of. But yeah, it's dojo versus dojo for the honor of the dojo. It just
Yep.
and it makes a certain amount of sense, but it doesn't do it well when you turn it into American translate.
Yep.
So
So yeah, there's a third movie in the original Karate Kid line, and then there was a fourth one.
yeah, the next
The
Karate.
next Karate Kid, made in 1994, so 5 years after the Karate Kid Part 3. The first starring role of Hilary Swank,
Right?
Yep.
and that's the most memorable thing about it.
Yeah.
It also
Can't
had
do
very
car
hard
waxing because she's a girl.
Yeah.
So instead, I believe Mr. Miyagi gives her kid brothers a bunch of Nerf guns.
Wait, hold on. I don't remember. Are you saying like Miyagi was actually, or were you saying that was a like thing
So
of the movie, or that Miyagi actually was like, nah, we're not
no
gonna
no
do
no
this
no no no.
fight.
So Miyagi begins the standard teaching of first we wax the car, this hand what, and she and Hilary Swank, the next Karate Kid, is like, you have a lot to learn about girls, and just walks off.
Hmm.
So it's not that he is sexist, but she demonstrates the sexist trope
I see.
because girls don't like cars.
Well, I would
They don't
argue that nobody enjoys washing cars.
Yeah. Well, that and I think it was, to show she's sassy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. Yeah, I think there's just that movie. There's a lot of that stuff where it's like
Yeah.
the writing is just so like arbitrary and ham-fisted, where it's like, oh, we have to like, okay, here's our sassy moment. It doesn't have to make sense. And it's like, oh, here's our girl power moment, and it doesn't have to make sense. It's like there's just these beats in the movie that they want to hit, and
Yeah.
they're insisting on hitting them at certain
Yep.
times, no matter what's actually going on in the story. So you find these things where like you have, because it's like you have good actors in there and stuff, but like they have a terrible script and they can only do so much with it.
Yeah.
It's like Star Wars prequel syndrome all over again. Well,
Right.
not all over again because this
Yeah.
was 94, but you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's no tournament in this particular case. Instead, there's a paramilitary fraternity
Yeah. For security guards.
for security guards, which is really just, we can't really have these guys live out in the woods and do like
Mhm.
hardcore survivalist paramilitary separatist shit.
Mhm.
But that's what we're going for.
Yeah, because all those cool frat people that want to be security guards. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah. It's just like, dude, how
Well, I mean, the fraternity's led by Michael Ironside, so there's something that can be appreciated there.
Yeah, he does kind of lend. I mean, okay, Michael Ironside can make anything seem cool. It's like,
Mhm.
I'm leading an elite force of janitors. And suddenly you're going, man, I need a mop.
Hey, janitors would be a step up because janitors are just doing honest work and not trying to be assholes about it.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not picking fights with their brooms and mops and such.
Yeah. No, then we get into Stanley from UHF.
Oh yeah, that's right. The mop kata.
Yeah, or
Mhm.
Stanley's mop, wields it like a lightsaber. So
Also, there's something about healing a bird to.
oh yeah, that the whole thing starts when she's looking after a bird.
Well, it's a hawk specifically.
Yeah, Harris Hawk. Yeah, that she
Mhm.
names.
Well, it was a silly reason for her to be breaking into the school basically.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like,
From
oh,
what
we need a dumb reason to have these events. Oh, I know, there's a bird. Well, just go with it.
go with it, right? Shh, just let it happen.
Yeah, this whole movie was the whole movie of the next Karate Kid was yeah, okay, just go with it, the movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right,
let's
pretty
demonstrate
much.
the lesson that she's learned. Because there's the part that sticks with me to this day is her, at the table and seeing a bug on the table and going to smack it, and the monk putting his hand over, and then later on, she does the thing where, oh look, I'm protecting the bug. I mean, it's
I
very
just looked it up, by the way. I'm this is like a parody of itself. I'm not making this up, internet. You can look it up. That organization is called the Alpha Elite.
oh yeah, the Alpha Elite, yeah, like what?
That's some on the nose bullshit. Holy God.
Security guards,
It's frat based, so you gotta have alpha in there.
right?
Oh, and
Oh
they're alpha
yeah.
alpha
Yeah, I gotta
males.
have a
Get it?
particular-
Get it? See
yeah,
how subtle this is? See the
right,
subtlety here?
right. So
Oh
yeah,
my God. What a bunch of hackneyed writing. This is so bad.
I
So
know.
I'm glad that Hilary Swank got other work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
God bless her. She moved on to actual good movies. Like she paid her dues with this horse shit.
right.
She did get to act with Pat Morita, so that's cool.
That
Yeah.
This is true.
And Pat Morita is it's hard for him to not do well, but it
He got
was
very tired
still
from carrying the movie.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and the thing is this was considered to be her breakout performance.
Well, it was her first starring role.
Right. Well, and just quick.
Oh my God, guys! It had a budget of 12 million, and the box office was 15.8 million.
Right.
Now let's
Well,
compare that to the original Karate Kid. It had a budget of 8 million and made $100 million.
Well,
and and
I
then
mean, at least it made its money back.
right. So
Probably
yeah,
not though, because those budgets they usually they're talking about the film budget, not like the marketing, advertising, and stuff.
right. Now,
Mhm.
actually, here's the thing. Karate Kid was not her first role. It was her first starring
It was her
role.
first starring role,
Right.
which is what I said.
Yeah, like you said, but yeah, she was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Yes, as an extra.
Kimberly Hanna.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was just like, oh, but yeah, and this was
Also,
yeah.
the Buffy movie wasn't really all that good.
Well, true, and that's why the series.
Yep.
But yeah, and it's just they call it the penultimate, but yeah, in the series, which thank God it wasn't the last one. So
Yep, we got the Kung Fu Kid. And of course, we have almost no time to talk about the thing that I haven't seen, but it is worth mentioning. Like
yeah,
every successful thing in the mid to late 80s and early 90s, the Karate Kid got a Saturday morning cartoon show
yep,
that involved traveling the globe to find magical shrines.
jeez.
That sounds more like a video game setup.
Right. So,
And from what I have from the reviews I've seen of it, because like I said, I've not seen it. I've heard that it was better than that one show that had the three sports guys. It was who used their sports powers to fight crime.
was it
Give me
better than
morning.
the Globetrotters? Because that was pretty good stuff. I think that was in the 70s and 80s. So
Give me a second here. It was better than NBC Pro Stars, but it wasn't as good as Mr. T and the T Force.
or Jackie Chan's Adventures.
Yeah. Well, Jackie Chan Adventures was later. These are all everything I'm mentioning here were of a time. Jackie Chan
Right.
Adventures was actually more my childhood than earlier. But yeah,
Right.
NBC Pro Stars featuring Michael Jordan, Bo Jackson, and Wayne Gretzky.
That's so ridiculous.
That's redonkulous. Yeah. So man, it's
We could probably do an episode on Saturday morning cartoons at some point. I'll add it to the list.
Oh yeah,
right.
that's a rich mine to
Oh
rich
god, yeah,
vein to mine from right there.
that's some low hanging there. There's a lot of stuff there, but yeah,
aren't
it's
really a thing anymore, unfortunately.
Saturday morning cartoons. No,
Yeah, Saturday morning cartoons aren't really a thing because you can't advertise to children anymore, and they were all just glorified 30-minute commercials. So,
right.
Got to move those toys.
yep.
That's why
Yep.
Transformers was a thing, because it was specifically designed to move toys.
Oh, and it did so well.
Yes. uh,
We're pretty much out of time. We've actually been jawing for about an hour and a half.
yeah. So yeah, sometime in the future we do need to do one on martial arts because I mean, there's also other martial arts movies like Last Dragon, everything Jackie Chan's ever done.
All
mhm.
the Jet Li stuff,
All the
Jet-
all the
Jet Li
Tony Jaa
stuff.
stuff.
Tony
Oh,
Jaa, yeah.
yeah, the Ip Man series,
Yep.
which is based on real life stuff, I guess. Or
Well, it's loosely based on real life stuff.
it's based on
But
a real
it's based off a real person. Yeah, Ip Man. Speaking of Tony Jaa movies, look up The Guardian Steadicam scene.
The Guardian.
The Guardian Steadicam scene. You also might you could also might find it under restaurant scene. In fact, give me a second. I'll just dig it up.
Oh, another one that deserves shout out: The Raid Redemption. Holy shit,
Yeah.
that movie is amazing, crazy, and the sequel is actually really good too.
Is it anime?
Yes. Give me a second here.
That one was I want to say that was Indonesia.
Yeah.
Man, just some of those balls to the wall fighting scenes and like choreography I've seen in almost any movie. Just so good.
I'm sorry, not the Guardian, the Protector.
Protector.
Sorry. It's an easy mistake to make.
Well, there's so many of those generic movie titles like that, right? Like The Guardian,
Yeah.
The Protector,
Right.
The Defender.
Okay, so it's like an 8 minute and 10 8 minute 10
It's
second.
an 8-minute and 10-second scene, and it is a single take.
God.
It is so fantastically great. We'll hang up here for now, but I think we're probably going to watch this and talk about it, and it'll be something for a future episode. Hey everybody, this has been Neil
The one true Ben.
and
Mike?
we'll talk to you next time on Geek Fanthology. This podcast is a production of Working Theory Productions. It is brought to you by a letter and a number. Opening theme is Ultra Mega Hyperstorm, and ending theme is March of the Mind, both by Kevin MacLeod. If there was interstitial music in this episode, it'll be listed in the doobly-doo. If you enjoyed this podcast or know someone who would, please consider sharing it in your social media, sending us an email, or leaving us a comment. If you're listening on iTunes, please rate us. If you're listening on Spotify, please follow us, etc., etc. Anything that you can do to help boost the signal and work the algorithm to make us more discoverable is appreciated. If you really enjoyed this podcast, please consider supporting us, either by making a one-time donation on our website or a reoccurring one on Patreon at patreon.com/workingtheory. A final thought. This outro is recorded in advance, and you may never hear it. It kind of depends on whether Neil has time to record a regular outro for an episode or if something gets in the way.